beautiful friends. It's Amanda here, and it is part 3, the final declutter of this giant tote that has been haunting me since I moved into the house over a year ago and never unpacked all of this stuff. And then I just started throwing more stuff on top, and it became a big mess. It's been driving me crazy, and I've been slowly decluttering all of the primers, powders, concealers, and today foundations that have been just chucked in here. If you go check out part 1, I explain more about what happens to the items that I declutter. I talk a little bit about my philosophy around decluttering. So if you're curious about what's going to happen to these things, go check out part 1. That way I'm not always repeating myself for anybody who's watched multiple of this declutter series, but I do explain in depth everything that happens to these pieces and sort of the who, what, where, why of it all. But I have so many foundations. Honestly, I was kind of putting off doing this part because all of the other categories were smaller, but there's just so many freaking foundations in here. So I'm going to break it down into mini categories. I'm going to do the drugstore and high-end things separately. That way, when I have these more bite-sized categories, it's easier for me to wrap my brain around them. Sometimes I have multiple shades, especially if a brand sends over a package, they'll send multiple shades. So I know that the darkest shade here doesn't work for me. I'm definitely somewhere in between these two colors, and I really like this foundation. It's also a great mixer if I want to add a little bit of hydration to a more full coverage foundation. So I'm definitely going to keep a couple of these, but I know that the darkest one doesn't work for me at all. Kind of a similar thing here, except I just kept buying more shades of this to finally find my perfect shade, which actually ended up being a mixture of 2 colors. But this is LA, girl, so it's not much of a hardship to have to use multiple foundations because these are very, very inexpensive. I'm pretty sure I picked these up for less than $10, so that's pretty affordable to me, especially considering some of the foundations we're going to see later on. But I definitely wanted to swatch all the shades that I have here side by side and give myself a reality check instead of just trying to keep buying the right shade over and over again. So I definitely do not need this warm beige shade. It's just too deep and too orangey for me, but the other 2 are great mixers together or mixed in with other foundations. Here is a case of having 2 of the exact same thing. The original Pretty Fresh tinted moisturizer that I've had for years, and either ColourPop sent me a new one or I along the way purchased a new one, but either way, the old one is going to just go get trashed and the new one will replace it. So there we go. Kind of a similar thing here. I ended up having 2 of the exact same foundation, but these are both newer, so I'm going to keep one, declutter the other. This L'Oreal Age Perfect line has not worked out well for me. This serum foundation was way too dark and orange, and I will have another product from the line later on that does not work for me for the same reasons and also textural reasons. Now the L'Oreal True Match foundation, this is another one where the brand sent over 2 shades and the darker one's too dark for me. This one I purchased 2 shades and the darker one's too dark for me. The Age Perfect Tinted Balm, I purchased this myself and I just didn't vibe with the texture or the shades at all. I want a balmy foundation, but this one is not the one for me. This Ulta Complexion Crush foundation, one of my favorite products that I've tried this year. I don't need to swatch it or anything. This is an instant keep. And this CoverGirl custom foundation, they had a custom blend thing on their website a couple years ago. And it's so cool. It didn't work well. This color doesn't match me at all. It never did. But I'm definitely keeping this just because I think it's awesome and it says my name on it. So there you have it. The Physicians Formula Healthy Foundation. I can't remember if I bought this or if they sent it to me. Either way, I have two shades here and I definitely do not need both. So I just wanted to do a little side by side swatch to figure out which one works best for me. I'm pretty sure I bought this. I think I remember ordering this many moons ago from Ulta when it first came out. I think I reviewed it too, but either way, I don't need two shades. This NYX Bear With Me Blur Foundation is newer to my collection within the past year. I haven't had a chance to use it too much, so I'm going to keep that one. And this serum foundation from The Ordinary, I'm pretty sure they discontinued this. And I don't know why, because this is a really great hydrating foundation. It feels like skincare. I haven't used it in a while because it was buried in the bottom of this tote, but I'm definitely bringing this one back into rotation before it expires. Speaking of expires, this L'Oreal Infallible Pro Glow I have had forever. The texture is so runny and separated and gross. This is definitely not salvageable. And the last one that I want to swatch and just try out the texture and the color is this NYX Total Control Drop Foundation. The idea is that you could mix this in with other face colors to adjust the shade. I just didn't really use it that much, so I'm going to go ahead and pass that along while it's still in good shape so that somebody else can get some use out of it, because I don't really need it. If I'm going to mix anything, it's going to be one of those LA Girl tinted foundations. Those are always what I reach for when I'm mixing colors, or the L'Oreal True Match Nude. I think I did a pretty decent job here with this particular category. And I know that I'm going to use a lot of these products in the near future, whether they are things that I use all the time and have been reaching for a lot, or some rediscovered beloved favorites that were buried at the bottom of this tote that I needed to unearth and bring back into the rotation. I know this kind of seems like a lot. First of all, I am a YouTuber, so I'm always going to have more than the average bear, but I don't think a normal person unlike me, I'm a very abnormal person. A normal person doesn't need this many foundations. But you know what? If you want to have that many, no judgment here from me. My point is, have whatever you want in your house, spend whatever you want with your own money if you've got it. But I don't want to make you think that I think this is what everybody needs to have. I only have this much stuff because this is my job. So no judgment. If you have 1 or 20 or 50 foundations, just do what works for your life, your storage, your budget. Okay, now with that out of the way, let's talk about some more high-end things. I realized as I was sorting out the high-end foundations that these Born This Way concealers made their way into the foundation section because they're in such big tubes. So that's how they snuck through. But you know what? We're going to go ahead and look at them anyway. I have 2 colors here. I definitely don't need to. As I was swatching these, I realized that the shade Almond was almost completely used up. Porcelain was still in pretty good shape, so I decided to trash Almond. It was really beat up. And Porcelain can just get decluttered. Somebody who matches that shade better can use it while it's still effective. And then I decided to not do all my high-end foundations at once, but instead I was going to do these tubey foundations, things in a tube. That way, the smaller categories I have, the easier it is for me to mentally process through each one and pay attention to what I'm doing. So these IT Cosmetics are some of my favorites, some of my most used, most loved, and I know that I'm going to keep those. Same with this Maracuja Tinted Hydrator, one of my all-time must-haves. The Fenty Pro Glow, I don't need to swatch this. I remember that this didn't work well for me, so this is an easy one for me to pass along. The Urban Decay Hydromaniac is a favorite. This CC screen from Supergoop is kind of newer to my collection, so I know I'm going to keep that one. Couldn't remember anything about this Bare Minerals Complexion Rescue, but you can see from the swatch here, it's not quite right. It's a little bit too dark for me, and the undertone's decent. It's just not the right shade for me. So I'm going to put that into the donate bin. That's definitely a pretty brand new product, because I don't remember ever having used it. Not a fan of the finish on this Tower 28 Sunny Days tint. I am a fan of the Huda Glowish tint, and this Thrive Cosmetics, as you can see, has been through the ringer. They don't even have it in this packaging anymore. It's almost used up. It looks a little bit too dark for me now. It's very, very old. If anything, I should just buy a new one and get the updated packaging, and it's long past time for this to be replaced. So this one is an easy one to let go. I feel pretty decent about this section. I kept 6 and I actually decluttered 6 as well. I'm about to show you the ones I decluttered, and there's only 5, but there were actually 2 of the Too Faced Born This Way concealers. One I just chucked straight into the trash can as I was decluttering, so there's only one of them pictured here, but I actually got rid of both of the shades that I swatched earlier on. So kept 6, got rid of 6. Pretty good. I'm shooting for about half on all of these. It doesn't have to be exactly perfectly to the number half, but it was just a loose goal for me to cut down this entire bin by about half. And all in all, I ended up doing pretty darn well. I have 2 of these Bare Minerals powders, the original powder foundation and the mineral veil. I never really used the mineral veil, so that's a good candidate to donate. And the original foundation is just okay for me, but every once in a while it's what I need if I want some extra coverage. So I'm going to hang on to that. And this Kosas Tinted SPF is brand new to my collection, so definitely going to keep that. This Tarte Hydroflex Serum Foundation, I don't really remember loving. I'm pretty sure I did a review on it, but I obviously have not paid attention to it since, and it looks pretty beat up. I'm pretty sure I've only worn it a handful of times, so I'm also going to donate that one out. And my M Cosmetics Daydream Cushion Foundation I use all the time. That's an easy keep for me. So decluttering 2, keeping 3 out of this weird shape container category. Okay, final portion of this foundation declutter are the high-end foundations, or the rest of the high-end foundations, I should say. There are a few discontinued foundations here, and there are also a couple that I use really frequently and are very easy for me to grab and say I'm for sure keeping these. Especially this Milk Sunshine Skin Tint, which I have since filming this completely used up and replaced. The Tarte Found Sealer and the Beauty Blender Bounce Foundation. Those are easy keeps, don't even have to swatch them. Then this Ilia Super Serum Skin Tint. I remember really liking this when I first got it, and again, it's just been buried in this bin. The shade looks good, so I'm going to keep that one. I'm going to keep my MAC Next to Nothing, another discontinued product that I really like, which is a great mixer as well. I do like to mix and blend my makeup a lot, so maybe that's kind of weird, but I like to customize just my color, my finish based on the day. And these Too Faced Born This Way foundations are really gross, really old, so they're going. Another product that they don't make anymore, the Estee Lauder Double Wear Nude Water Foundation. I love this stuff. I'm so sad it's discontinued. I'm definitely keeping this one. The ABH Luminous Foundation. I used to really like this one, but I don't like it more than many of the others that I'm keeping. I know that I wouldn't reach for this over the others that I've already put into the keep pile. So that's why I'm going to go ahead and declutter this one, even though it's fine. It definitely worked okay for me. I just know that it's not my favorite of the bunch. So of this section, I think this was my worst decluttering because I knew that I was really enjoying a lot of these without having to swatch them. So I am going to get rid of these three, the Born This Way foundations and the Luminous foundation from ABH, and everything else from this category I'm keeping. Like I said, didn't do great, wasn't trying to be perfect, but these are some of my most used and most loved. So I am going to hang on to what I like, and that's just kind of how it ended up. But overall, this total declutter, I ended up getting rid of about half of the things in this tote. Some of them got, unfortunately, sent to the trash can because they were unsalvageable. But anything that I was able to properly clean and disinfect either got passed along to a friend, a family member, or got donated. If you want to hear more about that, like I said, go check out part 1 and I will explain a little bit more about that. All in all, I feel really good about how this declutter went, and I hope that it was interesting to hear why I kept or decluttered certain things and just have a peek into my collection in its entirety. I would love to hear which foundations are your favorites. Would you have kept the same things? I always love to hear what you think about things too, so leave all your thoughts down in the comments below. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. And I love your face so much. Thank you for hanging out with me. You are so cute and special and awesome. Okay, bye.